Then there was COMM.
I'm very, very interested in communications and always have been. So I've always wanted to do something about it. There was one event that triggered it that particularly made me think, oh, I need to write about this now, and it was that a long time ago, and I don't know who it was, somebody started off a Wikipedia page about the tangent. And I never really think that sort of like Wikipedia needs an article about every band in the world, so I'm not particularly bothered whether we're on there or not. You know, I think maybe when I'm dead, somebody might put something on there about it. But you know, we ended up on Wikipedia, and then we kept on finding that somebody kept on altering this article, and I didn't know who it was, and I'm not going to tell you who it was anyway, but I did eventually find out that somebody had been altering the wiki page to actually sort of slightly change things in their favour. In other words, so that that person got slightly more mentions than another person. You know, this made me think, oh, there's this kind of like history being slightly altered just as we go. And so, you know, beginning to seriously distrust a lot of the things I read on the internet, and a lot of the information that a lot of people will take for granted it's not actually as it quite seems. And you know, although I've really embraced the internet as a way of communicating with fans, communicating with people, obviously there's an awful lot of it that's just not true, or in fact just is bullshit. So you really have to kind of be very careful with the internet. And I wanted to write this big piece that was all about how good it can be, but how careful you have to be with it at the same time. You know, I think it's a kind of cautionary tale, this COMM. It's kind of saying, here it is, it's a great world, but you know, we really need to be careful about how we do things. Because essentially they set it up wrong. The internet, we set it up before we'd worked it out, and now it's the way it is. It kind of would be great if we could just switch it off and start again and do it right, but we can't.
Yeah.
So, you know, but that's what the concept of the album was, and the big song, The Wiki Man, came out of that, and then the more historical song about how communications have developed came in the song Titanic Calls Carpathia, which you know, goes right back to the very beginning of communications electronically.
We don't even have to pay. We can create you songs when we return an empty bottle, but there's so much around. We just throw everything away. Posting to millions who don't have time to read us, giving ourselves away.
Well, that's it. We've never tried to be a band that goes, you are doing things wrong, we are better than you. You know, there is a lot of a punk rocker in me, and I do like to actually talk about something that's really happening in the world, not something, you know, from a science fiction book, not something from a fantasy novel, which a lot of progressive rock does. I want it to be about the world we live in, so, you know, because I came from a punk rock background. And the thing is that but yeah, you still want to suggest things to people. In fact, the way I've described it is that what basically the tangent is doing is asking questions. We don't have the answers to the questions. If I had the answers to the questions I'm asking, I'd be a politician and I'd be a head of state somewhere, because I'd have solved all the problems, but I haven't got the answers. So what I'm doing is asking the questions and hoping that somebody else will have the answers. That's it.
One of the things of the internet currently that has still causing a lot of discussion is of course the whole downloading issue. Now we have two generations here. How do you look at that? Because you are, if I may say, a beginning musician. How do you feel about the idea that your music has a fair chance of being downloaded by many people?
Yeah, it's not great at all.
but does it prevent you from making the music, or you just find other ways to use it?
Yeah, no, it doesn't prevent from making the music. It's just obviously when you put something out there and people are illegally downloading it, it's, you know, in some ways it's obviously reaching some people that wouldn't necessarily buy the album, but still it's not right that they obviously download it illegally. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very difficult to. I sometimes try and take a neutral ground on it, because right back at the beginning of Parallel or 90 Degrees, when we first approached people on the internet, we were dying for people to hear us, as sort of, you know, and we did do a few pioneering things. You know, we actually do claim, and of course we're not celebrated in any books or any histories, but we think that we put the first MP3 of a band on the internet ever. We think we were the first people to do it, because we did it on the day they invented the software. So, you know, the day it became available, we did it. And of course we wanted people to hear that song. What we didn't envisage was that suddenly every single piece of music we'd ever done would suddenly become available on Spotify, on YouTube, available for download as an ISO file. And of course it doesn't apply to us. It applies to every musician, or every film director, every writer of a novel, every computer games manufacturer. Everybody who is creative in this world now stands to be ripped off. You can just have our things. And it makes us look very uncool and very untrendy. Oh, well, you know. And pirates are sort of like really trendy people. Yeah, we sort of like download stuff. You know, they don't do shit all now. You know, pirates get quite a lot of, you know, respect from people. Oh yeah, they did that. They made that film available. Yeah, and they put their names on it. And they say cracked by Ninja. You know, and you think, what have you fucking done? You've just done nothing. You've just downloaded a little bit of ripping software. You've just managed to get rid of that. And you've put it on the internet and you've made yourself anonymous. Yeah. Well, big deal. We spent 9 fucking months recording a record, learning our instruments, creatively thinking of what we want to do. Yeah. And we made it. We worked really hard, 14-hour days, often many more. Luke and I actually spent 2 weeks when we hardly went to sleep mixing the album COMM, and the work that we do compared to the work that a pirate does is just as totally disproportionate. That's true. So of course we get annoyed about it. We lost, you know, sales of our DVD stopped on the day they started getting pirated, and the 500 copies of it were downloaded on the first day. Which is just appalling, you know. Music isn't a free gift. That's true. It's something that we do as our living. And if everybody says, oh, well, it should be your hobby. Okay, if it's my hobby, I'm not going to have as much time for it, am I? If I'm not going to have as much time, it's not going to be as good. That's true. If you want really good music, and if you want people like me and Luke and anybody else, you know, because there's a hell of a lot more of us, but if you want us to sit down and work and really make a good record, we have to get paid. Yeah. You know, not because we want to be rich, but because we want to eat. Simple as that. Oui, je parle français, et mon ami Gilles Lefebvre m'a appris. I have, yes, Gilles Lefebvre is very good friend of the band.
Yeah. Well, I'm very curious, you know, what's the story behind it?
Well, it was just a little idea. I mean, I just had this idea I'd started messing about with an organ sound. I liked the organ sound, and I thought, it sounds a bit like Tony Kaye's organ sound from Yes. And I really, really like Tony Kaye's organ sound. And I think, you know, that the first 3 Yes albums were really exciting records. And I was just messing about, and I started playing chords, and I thought, oh, that sounds like Watch of the Skies. And then I suddenly thought, what would happen if instead of Genesis had written Watch of the Skies? What happened if Yes had written it? So I started to write what I thought Watch of the Skies would have sounded like if Yes had been playing it. So I imitated the Chris Squire bass sound, I came up with some Peter Banks guitar sounds, did the Tony Kaye organ and everything, and then we decided we'd try and get a Yes tribute band to come along and get the vocals right. And this is where things got really strange, because the guy who does these vocals for the Yes tribute band, called Say Yes, he does an absolutely brilliant John Anderson. You close your eyes and it's John Anderson standing in front. The problem was, when he came to sing the Genesis song, he couldn't switch off his impersonator, and he sounded like Peter Gabriel singing it. It sounded just like Peter Gabriel, not John Anderson. But then I thought, well, okay, this is how it might have sounded if Yes had played a concert and Peter Gabriel had sung. So we then made up this whole story about a French television show in 1970 where Gilles Lefebvre was the sound engineer. And Jonathan King from England had brought Peter Gabriel to be on this television show as well. And he said, why don't you try this song with Yes, you know, and that you've been writing? And they get together and they play Watch of the Skies for the sound check. And Gilles Lefebvre records it and keeps the tape very, very safe for many, many years. And then finally it arrives on the internet. We had such fun. We had such fun with everybody writing, it's a fake! It's been done by mixing a version of Watch of the Skies from 1967. All these people sort of like coming up with how we'd done it, and how we'd used DJs and sampling technology to do it. And nobody actually seemed to think it might have been a band playing it. It was all how we'd done it technologically, and just really funny. So
it caused quite a stir. I must say, I visited several forums from both Genesis and Yes, and it was all over it. It's interesting to see what a stir something like that can cause, and a lot of people are all over it and discussing.
Well, the funny thing was, didn't some guy actually put the answer? Well, he said this could be a band. It sounds like a band, but other people were just ignoring his comment and carried on writing. Just totally ignored what he said.
That's absolutely right, and of course, this is one of the things we were actually trying to refer to in the whole album, COMM, is that the internet has become a place for. When it first started off, it became a place for discussion of things, and when we're supposed to, you put something on and somebody would reply to you and say, I've just read what you've said and I agree with some of it, but I don't agree with all of it, and this is what I want to say. Nowadays, people just put my opinion, and somebody else comes on underneath and puts their opinion, and then somebody puts their opinion, and you get the impression they're not reading what the other things have said. And like Luke just said, somebody actually got it right. Somebody actually said, I think this could be a tribute band and some other musicians working together and actually make the song. So he was absolutely spot on. Yeah? But everybody was still just ignored it and carried on saying, it's a fake all the time. So,
Yeah.
But that's just a bonus track on the album. It was a lot of fun, but that was
I think it's a very well-done experience.